Speaker, I wish I had more time.
Catherine Delahunty.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Thank you very much. I also want to talk about the economy this afternoon. The economy that doesn't get mentioned here, the elephant that tramples around the room, the so-called real world is often referred to, but the economy that's ignored in terms of many of the appropriations, including vote, energy and resources, is the economy that we all survive upon. The water, the climate, the earth, the soil. And without those things being sustainable, all of the endless rhetoric around balancing books and paying taxes are pretty meaningless. And we see around the world increasing threats to our climate, and yet this country has made no attempt in recent years to do anything about it. Nothing. Arctic is melting. We're down to a large lake which used to be pack ice, and it's almost as like the naked emperors are running the country, and imagining that if we just talk about fiscal balance and we just ignore the fact that most of our rivers are polluted, that we have contaminated a large part of the country, and that the only plan is to dig it up and sell those on the commodity market, which is collapsing at the moment for gold and is very shaky for coal, that somehow that's going to fix everything. And in the end, like anyone else that manages a house, you do it with a budget. And if that budget is not based on the foundations being strong, it doesn't matter how well you play with the numbers. There is no house. And the tragedy is that the world is such an extraordinary, intricate, sophisticated economy, the natural world. And our relationship is not sophisticated. Our relationship with the economy, and particularly this government, and particularly this budget, is a very, very crude relationship. In fact, I don't think they mentioned the environment at all in the latest budget. I don't think it even got a one-liner. All they did was cut DOC spending and then put $18 million from energy and resources for the management of crown minerals in this country. Now, it was really interesting spend, that one, and about $4 million was spent on research. So I had a look at what research they were doing, because I thought, well, you know, it would be interesting to see, given the government's track record, what they were researching. And I found out that $4 million, quite a lot of it is being spent on contracts to do things like identify indicators to permit the discovery of new gold deposits in areas of southern New Zealand. So in other words, let's help the industry by doing the research, and let's find the indicators. Let's do it for the industry. That's our job. The state's job is to actually find minerals for the industry, most of whom will then take the profits offshore. Identify sources of platinum. That was another research project, which the government, in their desperation to attract overseas investment into platinum, are doing their best to find it for them. It's not actually their job to find all the minerals, but that's what they're going to do. Another research project in this vote, energy and resources, was to build a framework for utilising mineral resource development. Another one was to enable management of offshore mining. Well, managing that's going to be a challenge to anybody, given the global record of the offshore drilling companies and the disasters, Thailand being a case in point. The latest exploration spill in Thailand is an utter disaster. So why this government will be able to manage that, given that they couldn't manage a small coastal disaster, I have no idea. But they claim the project will identify gaps in our understanding of the environmental impact of offshore mineral and hydrocarbon extraction. This, of course, is not unrelated to the bills that were put through to stop protest at sea, and it's not unrelated to the bill that's just been through the second reading in the House around spying on everybody. These are all connected in the Great Economic Plan. And the Great Economic Plan, which is mine it, kill it, drill it, is unfortunately out of step with what's going on. If we just, sorry, Mr. Speaker, not yourself, raise our heads a little bit and have a look around the world. Kevin Rudd made an interesting comment recently when he came back into his role, saying that he'd always been concerned about Australia's dependency on minerals. And the truth was that in 2013, and I'm quoting Mr. Rudd here, the China resources boom is over. And because the China resources boom is coming off, Australia's core economic strategy for the future must be one that diversifies the economy. Now, Kevin Rudd is possibly not my soul brother in his views on the mineral industry. I think it's quite possible. But Even he can see that there is a need to create more jobs in manufacturing, food production, infrastructure, construction, service industries, rather than having the eggs in one basket. In this country, we're desperately trying to find the basket and invite other people in to take the eggs out and sell them for their own benefit. That's our strategy. But if you look at what's happening globally, no one else recommends this. Now, coal has got very shaky, and we've seen the consequence of that for Solid Energy, but also for the people of the West Coast who are experiencing a major cycle and a continuous cycle, which will always happen with the commodity market. And it's nothing that is new, but it's nothing that can be relied upon. It's like an addiction whereby it's almost like we know it's going to fail, we know it's going to hurt, but it's the devil we know. And we'll do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got, which is a boom and then a bust. So that's what's happening not only in coal on the West Coast, but also in gold. So Oceania have just announced that they're going to mothball. And Newmont, the wonderful multinational in my district, have just announced that they're going to cut a third of their staff worldwide. Now, why is this happening? This is happening because after the global financial crisis, there was a peak in minerals in particular. And of course, as things change and allegedly restabilise, although I find that ironic, given the runaway mess that the economies of the world are in, people are no longer buying up gold. It's no longer what it was. And the very conservative organisations such as Ernst & Young, they are saying that there are enormous risks in investing in minerals. So it might be good if the government actually looked at their own natural allies like Ernst & Young and had a look at what's actually happening before they rely on entire economic plan based on digging up minerals that are losing their value on a daily basis. And it was interesting, the report that was done by Ernst & Young talked about the top 10 risks over the next 5 years, and they studied this from 2008 to 2012, but looking forward, they say those risks still exist. One of them is resource nationalism, and that is that people are not so keen in many parts of the world to hand over their resources. In terms of resource nationalism, people are more keen to get benefit for themselves. Funny that, but multinationals are seeing that as a problem. Not, of course, in Aotearoa, where the door is constantly being opened, where the law is constantly being rewritten, where it's welcome, welcome, take, we love you, whether it's Warner Brothers or Minerals, it doesn't really matter, but we're almost like an abused child that can't fight back. We just will say anything. We'll say anything, we'll offer anything, we'll change any law, so long as somebody still appears to love us. But according to these top 10 risks, there are a number of them, but one of them is that the mining industry are at risk because they are losing the social licence to operate. And what that means is everywhere in the planet, there are people characterised as lunatics, as we often are, who actually think that looking after the environment is very fundamental. So that's one of the problems, one of the reasons that disinvestment is taking place in the mineral industry. Another one is price and currency volatility, and that is manifest right now. And you see it with Oceania, you see it with Newmont. They just cannot rely anymore on those inflated prices, and they're cutting jobs, and they're cutting people's livelihoods, and they are also unable to plan a future that they thought was secure. And they don't really, this is normal for them, they don't really care. It's like, well, we got some gold out, we didn't pay much tax, we didn't pay much royalties, now we're gone, it's all good. But for the people in towns like Waihi, who are looking at mining underneath their houses, if the price collapses, it may save them. And if they are saved, it will be not because of any vision in this budget or any vision in this parliament. I have never heard of a country that allows mining directly underneath people's houses, causing vibration, dust and shaking and collapsing their property values, and nobody cares what happens to those people. Minister Bridges was recently in Waihi with Scott Simpson, Coromandel MP, and I was told by the locals when I visited them the next day, they were appalled by the lack of concern, the lack of interest in what is happening to them. They're on their own, and they are allowed to mine underneath their homes because the multinationals will do whatever it takes to get the dollar while there's a dollar to be made. As soon as that collapses, they're gone. So what's going to be the new plan, Mr. Speaker? What are we going to do next? Now, the Green Party has many ideas. There are many positive things we can do to build an economy based on the reality, which is called the earth. And we forget that at our peril.
Dennis O'Rourke.
Mr Speaker, the government's budget